Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Women of Golf Show. I'm Ted Odorico, and joining me is LPGA professional Cindy Miller, and we are your hosts. We're broadcasting live every Tuesday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern here on the blogtalkradio.com network, bringing you some of the best golfers, teacher professionals, and entrepreneurs helping to elevate women's golf. We're so glad you decided to join us this morning, so grab your coffee and let's get started. All right. Good morning, everybody. And once again, thank you for joining us on the Women of Golf Show. Just a quick program note. Cindy is off again this week, but we'll be back next week. She's off doing some wonderful things to help elevate women's golf. So it'll just be me here holding down the fort as normal. And appreciate everybody tuning in this morning. Also, another program note, Mike Nichols, of course, the Chief Business Officer of Symetra Tour, is actually in mid-flight. Will not be joining us this morning, but we've got a great substitute, Dean Schneider, the tournament director for the senior LPGA. He's going to be coming on here in just a minute. But I wanted to say a quick note since we weren't live before. Yesterday, of course, was Veterans Day. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of the both current and past military folks and their families for their service for the country. We appreciate it, and we are honored to have you do what you do to protect this great nation. So thank you to all of the veterans out there and to their families. We hope you had a great Veterans Day celebration yesterday. So thank you very much for your service. All right, as I mentioned, we're going to have a program change here. Dean Schneider is going to be coming out here in just a second. We will reschedule Mike Nichols for another date. In fact, I believe he may be available next Tuesday, so we'll see and get things hammered down. So I apologize for those that we're specifically tuning in to hear Mike wrap up the 2019 Symetra Tour season, but we will get him in the next week or so to do that. But as I said, in the meantime, we've got Dean Schneider. He's graciously decided to fill in for Mike this morning, and as I mentioned, he's the tournament director for the senior LPGA. So, Dean, good morning and welcome to the Women of Golf Show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
All right, I appreciate it very much, and again, thank you for jumping in last minute like that. We appreciate it very much. Dean, as I was just mentioning to you a few minutes ago before we went live, I thought since I didn't get a lot of heads up and I didn't get a chance to get much detail or background on your journey in golf, if you will, I thought this would be a great opportunity for you maybe to just tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, how and when you sort of got started in the golf business or golf in general, and then how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so I started playing golf when I was 7 years old myself. I always had a love for the game. I played a ton of junior golf and played collegiately at Morehead State University in Kentucky. I was doing my undergrad in sport management, and then I was assistant golf coach for 2 years as well while doing grad school. Actually did an internship with LPGA in January of 2014 and got lucky and got hired a week later, and I've been with the LPGA since, so I'm going on just completed my 6th season. I do work full-time with the Symetra Tour under Mike Nichols, and then as well as the Senior LPGA Championship is also one of my assignments for since 2017.
Very good. So I want to just something sort of jumped out at me, and I think this would be a great opportunity because I know obviously when we've talked to a lot of the Symetra Tour players, many of them have had some collegiate experience as well. So you mentioned that you played collegiately at Morehead University in Kentucky. Tell us a little bit about that. What sort of stood out from your memory of that? Because that's a little bit different than just sort of going out and playing as an individual. You're now part of a team. So talk about that experience a little bit.
You know, it's the funny part is the first rule that comes to my mind is our coach's rule was 40 and 40. If it was over 40 degrees, we were playing golf and practicing. If it was under 40-mile-an-hour winds, we were still out there playing and practicing. So I don't miss those days. And being able to just bundle up and not worry about how many clothes I have on, that's the nice part. But, playing the team game is certainly fun. We were huge. We had probably, I think, one time we were up to 14 or 15 players on our team. When, as you know, in college golf, only 5 travel, so it's very competitive. It's one of those. It is a team game, but at the same time, it's all individual scores. So, here I was going out and trying to shoot my best scores, but yet I wanted to beat my other teammates, so I was traveling and playing in all of the college events. But it was funny. My college coach was actually, I think he retired at 82 years old, and he was the oldest coach since the Penn State football coach retired. And so it was pretty unique to have him and hear all the stories that went through from his days coaching all the way up through until he retired.
Yeah, it's amazing. What a wealth of knowledge to be able to pass on to so many young individuals and really help kind of carve their future. I want to ask you, it's really kind of a two-part question. It's the same question, but two different ways. The first one is, talk about what specifically, besides the 40-40 rule, that you learned from your coach when you were playing for Kentucky. And then the other part is what you've learned from watching some of the players, whether it be on the Symetra or the LPGA Tour, what you've learned about your own game watching these ladies play. But talk about university first. What did you learn from your coach? What did he teach you specifically that really helped you to understand your own game a little bit better?
Yeah, he was definitely one that let everyone go with their own swing coaches and didn't really try to change everyone's swing into one certain style. Mentally, I think, is where I learned I had the biggest jump learning under him. And there's one specific mindset that stands out to me. And I've actually had this discussion with a couple pros and a couple college players that are still coming in. But there's 18 holes of golf, and he said, why don't you break it down into 3 hole segments? He goes, if you make a birdie every 3 holes, that's going to equal 6 birdies a round. And I guarantee you're not going to shoot over par too many times if you're making 6 birdies a round. And, it's funny because you think about that, make a birdie every 3 holes. That's pretty simple. And then it's one of those, but at the end, 6 birdies, that's a pretty strong, pretty stout round. But mentally, if you can go out and break it down into those short hole segments and keep that focus shot by shot, next thing you know, I've had a couple pros come back and they're like, man, I really do like that mindset.
Yeah, and that's a great way, I think to help you focus too on a specific task. Sometimes I think, and I'm obviously referring to amateur golfers. I teach golf as Cindy does, Cindy Miller, the other co-host here, and one of the things that we see with a lot of our amateurs is they get too much thought process into their golf game. In other words, once they step over the ball, they've got about 20 or 30 different things going through their mind. Is my grip right? Is this right? Is my elbow sticking out or what have you? And then they start thinking about the course itself. I got to avoid that bunker out there, or I've got to make sure I stay left. And they get so much thought going in there. So I think having a focus pattern on just try to get 6 birdies throughout your round keeps you a little bit more focused and less distracted, I would think. What about from the ladies? So you've had a chance, obviously, to be involved with the senior LPGA, and obviously you've had some exposure as well to the Symetra. What has the ladies taught you? Again, what did you take away from that experience working with them? Seeing them play day in, day out at the various events. What has resonated with you about their style of play that's maybe helped your game?
Yeah, definitely the hours that the girls put in that a lot of people don't see behind the scenes. My job is to be in the office 8 hours a day when I'm not traveling, and their job is to be on the golf course practicing 8 hours a day. That is their job. So to see all of the practice techniques and regimens that they've got when they're out there, whether it's the off season or a couple days before a tournament, it's pretty cool to see. For me personally, walk around the driving range, see all the different tools and techniques that they're using to practice, and then translating it into my game. I know I'm just kind of what you said, too much mentally. I'm the exact opposite now. And I was that way for sure in college. I was thinking too much with my head, and now it's just go hit the ball, go find it, and figure out how to get it in the hole. And I feel like sometimes I play better now than I ever did.
It's interesting that you say that because, we often hear in the industry, especially with amateurs, I wish I could take my range game, to the first tee. They go out there in the practice tee and, they're hitting some pretty decent shots and they seem to have everything under control. And then as soon as they step up to that first tee, it's like, wait a minute, where'd this guy come from? I can't hit anything straight anymore, and things are over. And a lot of it goes to the mental side of the game is because they're bringing so much junk, if you will, to their game that they're not able to really just even enjoy the round. And I think that adds to a lot of the frustration. So, you're exactly right. I think the mental side of the game is something that people greatly overlook. And, Cindy and I joke a lot on the show about bringing a lot of baggage. As Mike was heading to the airport, of course, he's pulling, a bag or two for his flight. Well, people are like that on the golf course. They're pulling their baggage with them to the first tee. I played a bad round last week, or I wasn't hitting it good out in the range, or whatever the case may be. They're now carrying that baggage to the first tee. So, what do you try to do? Again, just going back to what you just said, what do you try to do to avoid falling into that pitfall of bringing too much, in your head when you're playing around? What do you try to do mentally to stave that off?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I think with today's day and age, with having everything at our fingertips with the cell phones, that's probably my worst thing. And to the point of the baggage, I think it's the same when it goes to players that are trying to practice. I see pros that put their phones down and don't touch it for the day, so they're focused and locked in on what they got to do. And then I see pros out there hitting a couple putts and then pull their phone out and send text or be on social media in between, and you just can't get in that right mindset. That baggage is staying with you. And I know, translating it to mine, when I try to play on the golf course, unless there's something that I know I'm waiting on or I have to be there at, if there's a call coming or an email coming in, I try to put my phone down, because if I'm paying attention to my phone, I lose focus. I start hitting bad shots, and then my careless attitude is there as well. And so I know for me, it's really trying to just not paying attention to my phone, put it away, and just and watch what's going on the golf course.
It's interesting. As I just mentioned, I teach as Cindy does, and I primarily focus what I refer to as corporate golf. I deal with a lot of executives and things like that. So obviously, naturally, they've got phone in hand. And I remember some time ago when phones were really first starting to come in, and I'm talking about cell phones. A lot of them would be so focused on staying in touch with the office or checking messages and things like that it was actually distracting. And I remember when we would go out for a playing lesson, and I'd be in the cart and I'd look over and and I'll just throw a name out there, but Bob would be sitting there and he's messaging his secretary, and I'd say, well, Bob, it's your shot. Go ahead. You need to step up and let's get things going. And yet, just a minute, and he'd go back and he'd be messaging something back. So now I make it a steadfast rule when and my students know this, that I basically tell them if they touch their phone at any point, unless there's an emergency, I will skip it into the first pond I see, because to me, they're not getting the benefit of the lesson if they're busy distracting. Obviously, I'm not going to throw their cell phone into the pond, but I just do that as sort of a joking threat. But I want them to understand that they need to stay focused, and they need to, if they're paying money to come and have a lesson, they're not paying to text and so forth. And if their business is such that they can't put that phone down, then they don't need to be learning to play golf. That's the way I look at it. Because, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, and I was just going to elaborate that even more, Ted. And with us from the tour, we've got pro-ams every single week, and when the pros are out there practicing on their own time, they're able to do what they want, how they want. But when they're there playing alongside the corporate people who have paid to play in the pro-ams and expect the interaction. We expect that too from the pros. So we encourage to put the phone down. Half of the pro-ams are just a 9 and 9, so you're out there for 9 hours. Put it down for 2 hours, and then this is your job, playing alongside the pro-am and your amateurs and giving them that full interaction and that your full commitment to those 9 holes. That is their day. There's something that they look forward to every single year, and it might be a one-day thing for most of them. So give them your full attention for those 9 holes or 18 holes, and then when you're done, you can head back and catch up with what you need to on the phone.
Yeah, exactly. And I think from an amateur standpoint, I think that if I was, again, paying money to participate in a Pro-Am event, the last thing I would want is to feel that I have no value in that particular event if the person that I'm paired up with or the pro that's in my group is not really giving us any attention. I would feel very unsatisfied. And I know I'm sure 99.9% don't have that feeling, but in this day and age with technology, as you pointed out, that is a concern, and it's a concern in every facet of life, but especially on the golf course. I'm all for if somebody is using some sort of a GPS app or something to help their game. I don't have a problem in that, but if they're doing other stuff, especially with slow play, you got groups in front of you and they're sitting there, pilling around on their phone out in the middle of the fairway, and you're waiting to hit your shot. It's very, it's distracting, and it just makes for an overall unenjoyable round. So let's talk about your job as tournament director. For those that maybe don't understand what that means, talk about what some of your function is for an event. Obviously, Senior LPGA at French Lick, of course, has been a great event. Talk about what steps you do leading up to the tournament and during the tournament, and then even after the tournament, what you do, what your job function is in that event.
Yeah, so as tournament director, the biggest thing for us are the pro-ams outside of the tournament itself. We've got a staff that comes in and helps alongside me with the rules, and our operations team and our player services that kind of almost take over during the tournament rounds. And then so my big priority is more for the business side pre-tournament when it comes to the pro-am days and the pro-am parties and practice rounds. And so prior to the actual tournament itself, I'm connecting with the local guys in French Lick, Dave Harner, who's the tournament director there on site, and then also with the superintendent and the head pro, Russ Apple, the superintendent, and Andy Fortner, the head pro. I'm connecting with those 3 guys the entire year. We're already starting on 2020, and we're locking down dates and times for the practice rounds and how the players can come pick up their golf carts to go play practice rounds, when they can start, when they can't tee off before, all the little things of everything that goes into the week of the tournament. And then once the tournament's there, we're actually making sure that we're connecting with all of those amateurs that have sponsored and are playing in the Pro-Am to make sure they got their correct tee times, that I'm coordinating with the pros that they're assigned to the Pro-Am, and then who they're assigned to and where they're starting and all their tee times. And then we just take it day by day, little by little. I know I've learned as I've gone already in my 6 years, just got to take it step by step. I can't look too far into the future. I got to take it day by day and make sure that nothing is overlooked for Pro-Am number 1 before I go on to Pro-Am number 2, and then same into tournament rounds 1, 2, and 3. And what's been really cool from my side of things with the Senior LPGA at French Lick is the connection with Golf Channel. That was for me personally, that was my first time I've had to coordinate with Golf Channel and their compound, bringing in their trailers, bringing in their TV towers, and putting all the fiber down for their TV cameras and all the ropes and stake and learning the operations ins and outs from the Golf Channel side. So that's been a real cool experience personally to learn the behind the scenes with them.
Yeah, it's a lot of, I think most spectators watching an event on TV don't realize just how much goes into it. I remember a number of years ago, I was out in California on a little vacation. And in fact, I went back again this year. But I happened to go around the time when they were setting up the AT&T Pro-Am at Pebble Beach. And it was literally the week leading up to the event, and I mean, all the trailers were coming in. The grandstands were being set up around, near 18 and some of the other areas, and it was just amazing. And you'd see the boom trucks and this and that lifting things up and whatever. And it was just amazing just to see what goes on. And the tournament hasn't even started yet, so there's a lot of work that goes into that. Now, obviously, let me back up for a second. The event at French Lick, the Senior LPGA, when is that? What's the time frame? When was it in 2019?
So in 2019, we were October 14, 15, and 16, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and we were on Golf Channel from 3 to 6 p.m. each day. And then for 2020, we're moving to July, and we'll be July 27th through August 2nd next year.
Okay. And was there a specific reason that they were moving it? Do you know offhand? Was it just a scheduling issue, or they decided to move the event to an earlier time?
Yeah, initially in 2017 we were in July, and then we moved it in 2018 and 2019 to October. It was better dates for Golf Channel, and we're going to go back to July 1. It's longer daylight for us, and it's going to be much better weather. It was little frigid the last couple years there, and I know that we would prefer to have some players not being all bundled up.
Right. Well, exactly. I think it makes, obviously when you're playing late October like that, or even mid-October rather, you're getting into, especially up in Indiana, it's the leaves have changed or changing for sure, and it looks aesthetically very nice, but yeah, it makes for some unpleasant play when the players got to bundle up so much. When you look back over 2019, what was your overall assessment of the event? When you look at it, the success of it, what particular maybe special moments that stuck out for you?
It's pretty cool when you look not only 2019, but when you look back 2017, 2018, and now 2019, to look at the three winners. The first year, the inaugural year, we had Trish Johnson as our winner from England, and then we had Laura Davies, who, as you know, is a World Golf Hall of Fame member from 2015, and then now Helen Alfredson winning this year in 2019. And the field that is there is just, it's remarkable. We have 3 members from the World Golf Hall of Fame, 17 major champions, and 24 Solheim Cup stars from 2019. And the field is 78 members. So it's very competitive. I know the one thing that I hear from the players is it's great to see the Senior LPGA come on board in 2017, and then the following year in 2018, the USGA brought on the U.S. Senior Women's Open, and because of these two events, these players are starting to actually get out there more and practice more and play more. Before, they didn't have a ton of events to keep their game sharp for, so it's exciting for them, and it's going to be exciting to see 2020 and moving forward at French Lick especially. I know that golf course is very challenging, but is always in great shape. And I ran into Tammy Green over here at LPGA International the other day, I believe she won 7 times on tour with a major, and she said there's only one place to hit it, and that's where you're aiming it, and you have to keep it straight. And she's like, it was good, though. I'm going to continue to hone my game, and I'm looking forward to next year as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of chuckling to myself because when you mentioned about French Lick and that about being challenging, we've had Dave Harner on here and others from French Lick, and I know Cindy, of course, is a member of the Legends Tour and obviously a former LPGA player as well, and she's played up at French Lick, many times, and will certainly attest it is definitely a challenging course. And I actually I didn't watch it all, but I did watch some of the senior LPGA event this year. And I'll tell you, there were some tough holes. But what was interesting was even though, throughout various moments in the tournament, some of the gals got their balls into difficult situations. It's amazing, when you compare it to watching, amateurs play, how very calm and cool and collective they are, at least on the surface it appears. When they do get into some trouble, they just, sort of regroup and they just focus on the task at hand. They don't think about that bad shot that maybe just happened, certainly not in the moment. And they regroup themselves and are able to, get them, in most cases, into a successful recovery shot. And that's, I guess, shows the difference between the pros and the amateurs, is they're able to recover with much more success. Dean, I want to just pause for just a second, if you don't mind. I want to play something for the listeners. Just take a little break here, so take a deep breath or two. And we're going to play a promotional clip from Cindy Miller about business golfers out there that want to not only improve in the boardroom, but also on the golf course. Cindy's got some great tips for you. So here's a little promotional spot, and then on the other side, Dean, you and I will continue our conversation.
Everyone knows business deals are made on the golf course. Knowing how to act is just as important as how you hit it. As an LPGA professional and corporate trainer, I offer workshops, seminars, and executive retreats to teach you how to do both. From the back nine to the boardroom, improve your team from the inside out, or Golf 101 for executives might be the perfect fit for your team. Maybe it's time to make some deals on the course. For more information, go to cindymillerinc.com.
All right, and for those maybe just joining a little bit later, that's, of course, my co-host, LPGA professional Cindy Miller, who isn't with us this morning. She's off doing some other things, but will be back next week. But that was just a little promotional spot, and if you're interested in connecting with Cindy Miller, go to her website, cindymillerinc.com, or you can reach out to her, Cindy at cindymillergolf.com, and she'll be more than happy to connect with you and help you not only with your game on the golf course, but also in the boardroom as well. And just a quick note as well, you might want to pick up a copy of her book, Golf 101 for Executives by Cindy Miller. You can go to Amazon.com and just type in Golf 101 for Executives and just search it out. You'll get a copy there. Or you can actually go to Cindy's website, cindymillerinc.com, and you can actually order it right online as well, right from the website. So definitely do that. I've got my hot little hands on a copy a few weeks back, and I've been enjoying the read. She talks about a lot of great things about the game, some of the do's and the don'ts, some of the challenges that people are faced with, and just some of the etiquette that you need to know when you're out there. So for some of you in the boardroom that maybe haven't played a lot of golf yet, some great resources. Get a copy of her book and connect with her as well, and she'll be more than happy to help you out. All right, I'm joined this morning by Dean Schneider. He's the tournament director for the senior LPGA, and he's helping to fill in for Mike Nichols, chief business officer from the Schneider Tour, who was supposed to join us this morning, but unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier at the top of the show, he's mid-flight and wasn't able to join in this morning, and was able to connect us with Dean here, who's doing a great job filling in. So, Dean, welcome back. I want to sort of step things in a little bit different direction here. We want to keep on the theme, of course, of women's golf. Women's golf, of course, is still on the rise. It's probably one of the biggest demographics of new golfers that are playing today. So all new golfers coming in, that's the highest percentage, particularly young female golfers, and I'm sure a lot has to do with watching many of the ladies, not only in the LPGA, but the Schneider Tour as well, getting very excited about that, and obviously more opportunities that have been created through collegiate golf as well, with scholarships and opportunities and things like that. So it's a great way for young girls to get out there and do something different. And there are many doors that are opened up. But one of the things I want to ask you, Dean, is playing obviously is one aspect of golf, but teaching is also important. What do you think? What role do you think golf, as a general rule, and I'm talking about every aspect of the golf industry, help maybe some of the girls make that transition? I mean, it's great to be able to battle it out there with some of the best out, whether it be the LPGA or the senior LPGA. But the truth is, not everybody has that sharp of a game, and the girls could certainly use more great quality instructors like a Cindy Miller and many of the others. What do you think golf can do to attract more people to that side of the game?
You know, I was thinking initially where my head went to with that was especially when I go out and watch our LPGA, USGA girls golf and their clinics, and I'm sure Cindy does those as well, and you might as well. But you know, with the kids especially, it's keeping it fun for the kids, keeping them entertained, and you know, making sure they have a good time and enjoying that they're coming out. And then as they continue to grow, it's then sharpening that game, to your point. And then next thing you know, before long, they're breaking 90, they're breaking 80, they're breaking 70, and we're in scholarships and we're in college golf. And then it's there's never really was a discussion. Well, what do you really want to do? Oh, guess what? You're good enough, and I'm gonna now try to play golf and play professionally. But I think, you know, also teaching, and I'm sure I'm not a teaching pro myself, but as you guys know, everyone is different. Everyone's shape, bodies, sizes, their movements, and their flexibility. So really learning what people can do over others and what people can't do, and having to teach their swing to the best of their ability with you know, what they're capable of.
Yeah, and the reason why I say that is obviously, you know, there are the teaching side on the LPGA has certainly expanded. I would like to see it more, because I think there's some great, and I'll be quite honest, and maybe I'm a little biased in some ways towards the ladies, because, you know, doing this show here has really introduced me to a lot of great LPGA teaching professionals, Cindy being first and front and center. I've enjoyed, you know, we're going to, I think she doubts this, but we're going into our 7th season next year with this show. And her and I have been, you know, having some great conversations with a lot of very interesting folks from the golf industry, and particularly on the teaching side of the LPGA. And I mean, these ladies worked incredibly hard. In my opinion, much harder than a lot of the guys do on the teaching side. And I come from that side, so I can say with utmost certainty that these gals work a heck of a lot harder than the boys do. So, you know, I want to keep that momentum going, and I want to see that happening, where more young girls, you know, God bless them if they want to go out and battle it out on tour. I'm all for that. But I also want them to be encouraged. And I think that, you know, to get into the teaching side, because I think that, you know, as a player, you know, a lot of these players go out there, and some of them will make that transition a little bit later on, but a lot of them maybe don't necessarily have the skill set to be a great teacher. So we need to find individuals before they necessarily go out and play, and really find out, is the teaching aspect something that they're going to be really good at, that they want to give serious consideration? Because I don't want to see a situation down the road, Dean, where we have, you know, less and less female teacher professionals out there because we're not doing enough in the industry to encourage that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you know, it's when I look specifically at Symetra Tour and the girls I know that are out there playing or have played, you know, there are definitely those that are better teachers than others. We get girls that come out, and one specifically love to sign up for the junior clinic and teach the juniors, and you can go down the line and see which ones are a little bit more natural of a teacher compared to the others. But then at the same time, from another side of teaching aspect, you know, I see girls that when they give give it their couple years of trying professional golf, and then they're like, well, maybe I don't really necessarily know the swing and all the teaching mechanics, if you will, but at the same time, I've got my experience in playing professional golf and playing collegiate golf, and the mind side of it that I'm going to go into teaching college golf. And we've had a couple of Symetra pros go in that have became college coaches as well. And so I know when I look and listen to you say the word teacher, there is so many different ways to call these ladies teachers as well. So it's unique to see which kind of road they might go down afterward.
Yeah, and I think a lot of them, we've had the pleasure over the last several seasons here on the show, thanks to Zach and Mike from the Symetra Tour, having a lot of these great young ladies come on the show. We interview the winners every week each season, and we actually just wrapped up here last week having a couple of the young ladies from the who qualified through the Volvic race for the card on Symetra in order to earn their cards out on the LPGA. And actually one of the young ladies that we had on was Julieta Granada, who actually has been out on the LPGA before. And and I'm sure you're familiar with her. And I mean, I mean, she's 32 years old and she's still out there battling in her game. And a lot of people think, well, 32 is pretty young, but I'll tell you, and it is certainly compared to my age, because I'm in my mid-50s. But what people don't realize is the stamina it requires to play each and every week out there. And I know Symetra had a very grueling season this year with I think it was 7 or 8 events at one point in a row. So that's another thing too that a lot of people don't appreciate. We were talking earlier about what goes on behind the scenes, with the pros and so forth. But a lot of people don't realize. When you're playing 3, and then now many of these girls that transition to the LPGA are going to be playing 4 events a week, that's a lot of golf back to back, on top of all their practice time and their fitness routines and all this other stuff. So that's something that I think that, a lot of players and a lot of amateurs particularly don't appreciate that what these young ladies have to go through. What would you like to see happen as we'll go back to the senior LPGA event. What would you like to see happen? Are there changes coming up? Is there anything different that you know of that's going to be happening up for 2020 other than the date change?
Yeah. So, and for those that didn't hear earlier, I'll say again, the date change for 2020, we will be moving the senior LPGA back to July. The end of July is going to be July 27th through August 2nd. Previously in 17, 18, and 19, we played Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the tournament rounds. And then in 2020, we're going to actually have the Pro-Ams on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the tournament rounds on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So it's going to be more of a traditional LPGA or Symetra tournament week, whereas before it was kind of the wraparound with Pro-Ams on Friday, Saturday, and then tournament rounds on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We've also are looking at, I believe we're going to bring the qualifier back into play for 2020. And so those that aren't in the exemption list or can't get on through the top 78, there will be a chance to qualify in for those senior ladies that would like to come get those top 2 spots out of the qualifier.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes, that happens and a lot of adjustments that happen in the golf industry over the last several years. The introduction of the Q Series now as opposed to Q School, if you will, and so forth. And I know that that's something that's really made a difference for a lot of the young players trying to earn their card that maybe didn't make it into the top 10. One thing I want to ask you about the tournament specifically, you talked a little bit about leading up to the events, what goes on as tournament director and coordinating with the on-site directors. But what about after the event? Okay, so back in October, as you mentioned, the 14th to the 16th of this year was the Senior LPGA at French Lick. When do you start getting ready for next year? I mean, obviously you've got the date set up now for July. How soon after this year's event do you start getting ready and organized for next season?
Yeah, it's definitely a wraparound year-long event. I know as soon as the tournament was done, I actually had lunch with Dave Harner on the following Thursday, the 17th of October, and we were already talking about our changes for 2020, and he's going to come down as well as Mr. Ferguson and Brendan Sweeney, and they're going to come down to our CME Tour Championship on the LPGA in 2 weeks down in Naples, and we're going to have a meeting there. We're going to really hone in on the 2020 changes and updates. It is one of those that, especially being the first ever senior LPGA tournament in the books for the, since LPGA was founded in 1950, it's one of those that we kind of had a blank napkin, if you will, that we started with, and so every single year we're learning what might have went well, and some things that we need to tweak, or what we thought might have went well and then didn't go so well. So now we have to look back at those and own up to a couple things, but at the same time, all we're doing now from year to year is just really fine-tuning the event, and it's really exciting to see it grow from 2017 now to 2020, and especially with now actually having a history to talk about too, being able to tell you those three winners that we've had in each year, and so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and the other thing too, Dean, I think that a lot of people don't understand as well. Even though you guys have put on many, many events over the years, when you introduce a new event like this, it's a sort of a trial and error for the first little bit, because, you do base it on other models and that, but you have to make tweaks along the way, and you're always, as you just pointed out, trying to find ways of improving the experience, not just for the players, but for the sponsors and for those participating in the Pro-Am as well. So, and obviously for the host courses and things like that, you're trying to make it a better, well-oiled machine, if you will, and that takes a lot of work. So, I think people are misguided when they think, okay, well, the tournament's over, so you just rinse and repeat what you did last year, but that's not always the case. You have to. There are issues, as you said, that may come up, or circumstances that maybe could have been improved upon. So it's a constant evolving tournament, isn't it?
Absolutely, and to your point as well, we don't want it to be a rinse and repeat, especially for the amateurs that are coming in playing alongside the pros. If you go play as an amateur into a tournament and you're given a tee gift for your sponsorship and playing alongside, you don't want to show up every single year and get that same tee gift. So we've got to be creative as well from my end and our team to make sure that it does feel like a new event, and that every amateur and sponsor is excited to come back every single year. Because if you rinse and repeat 2-3 years, next thing you know, you're going to start losing sponsors and losing the activity and the excitement around the tournament. Whereas we want people to be excited and then look forward to our event coming back every single year.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And pardon me. And I think that's what makes it special is knowing that when you come back each year, it's a new experience. I think that's unfortunately, pardon me, what makes sometimes it difficult for these events is because you've got to be creative, and you've got to not get into that trap of making it the same event every single year. You certainly want an overall similar experience. You want them to have a good, enjoyable experience, but you want them to be excited about coming to the event and say, what's going to be new this year? What can we expect? And that's not an easy thing to pull off, because, after a while you start saying, we did that last year, and, we did that a couple of years ago. What can we? So keeping it new and fresh sometimes can be some of the most challenging aspect of it. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And what's cool though, from my side, and I've learned as I've, year to year in my experience now, is that I can pull from other events. And even when I travel to a PGA Tour event, I'm constantly looking around, what can I take from them if you will, and pull from them and say, man, I learned this over there, or I went to another Symetra Tour event that I wasn't a part of, that I was like, oh, that'd be really unique, and that's a really cool idea, or that's a great gift. And not only just the gifts themselves, but the contacts of those companies and where they get those. Specifically French Lick. I have an example I'll share with you there. The head pro over at the Ross course, he does our Symetra Tour event, and Rob is his name, and they come up with the greatest gifts every single year at French Lick. And I know specifically, he goes, every single year at the PGA show, I walk around, I find something new, and usually it's just on the trophy side. But he goes, I want to keep it unique and fresh, and every single time I go there, I ask for the contact of where he got it from so I can steal it and use it at another event.
Yeah, listen, that falls into the creative category. You just got to know where to go to find it. Well said, Dean. I think what makes it really special, one of the things that I know Cindy enjoys doing about the show is speaking with many of the young up and comers, particularly in golf. As I said, we obviously I had the pleasure last week of speaking with Esther Lee and Julieta Granada, of course, who is a little bit more seasoned of a player than some of the others. But we've had a lot of first-time winners this year, and it was really interesting to sort of hear their story and their journey, where they've had very successful collegiate careers, but then they get out on the Symetra Tour, and suddenly that first win seemed to elude them, and they would get very down on themselves and just am I do I need to be doing this, or maybe it's time for a change or what have you. And somehow, some way, they found the wherewithal to say, you know what, I'm out here to have fun. I want to enjoy this experience. And lo and behold, usually within the next week or sometimes 2 weeks, they would win their first event. And suddenly it sort of solidified their thought process that, I do need to still be out here. So that's a difficult thing, I think, for a lot of these young pros coming up to really appreciate. Now, obviously, on the flip side, again, working with a lot of the senior LPGA players and seeing them that have played for many years, they've already learned that experience that you're going to have ups and downs. But you get to witness a lot of that, too, with the events, working with players and talking with players and stuff like that. When you look back over 2019, were there any sort of special moments that you can think of that stuck out for you, whether it be with specific players, watching them play, seeing their reactions, or just the overall flow, if you will, of the season? What was impressive for you about 2019?
Yeah, specifically, and obviously I'm going to look directly at the tournaments that I ran, but, in Cincinnati this year, which was the Prasco Charity Championship at TPC Rivers Bend, that was the end of June. So about middle of our season, we had this new player come out of UCLA, Patty Tavatanakit, and
yes,
she had just played one event, I believe, before that. So Cincinnati was her second event, and one thing the creativity side here, back to, we started doing player bios, and so every single Pro-Am cart receives a bio of the pro that they're playing with. So now they've got a little bit of a background and now talking piece for when they meet their pro. They can direct conversation and say, oh, I saw you started playing at UCLA, you just graduated. But
right.
Anyway, so with that, I was creating Patty's bio, and I believe she played 12 college tournaments and won 7, which is incredible. And then she came out to Symetra, and I saw her on the range in Cincinnati, and I watched her hit a couple balls, and I said, man, she didn't miss a shot just on the range. And so then that tournament specifically, I made a point to go out and watch a couple holes, and she ended up shooting 8 under the first day, was in the lead, ended up finishing second that week, and lost to Perrine Delacour. And those two as you know, both received their tour card for 2020, and
Yep.
Patty ended up winning 3 times, and when she won in Sioux Falls, the Sioux Falls Great Life Challenge, we're standing there right after the ceremony, and I've got a group of flags for her to sign, and she pulled her phone out, and as you can imagine, she's getting blown up by all these congratulatory texts, and one of them was from Perrin, and she goes, "Come on, girl, stop playing so well. Give me a chance to continue to keep my number 1 spot." So it's cool to see, the player interaction with each other, and then to also see how competitive they are, because they both got their tour card, but they were both fighting for that number 1 spot. And I mean, even not just that number 1 spot, but it is their job, so they want to continue to make as much money as possible. And so it is cool to see that behind the scenes fire in them, if you will.
Yeah, we had, as I mentioned earlier, we had the pleasure of having the winners this season, Patty, and of course Perrin was on. In fact, Patty was on multiple times, as you can imagine, this season. I think Perrin was on a couple times as well this season. But you're exactly right in your analogy. One of the interesting things that I discovered was the camaraderie. I mean, even though behind the ropes, if you will, or rather inside the ropes, they're battling it out. When they come outside, there's a lot of congratulatory, comments and words, if you will, to one another, which just shows the level of sportsmanship. The thing that really impressed me, I think, the most with a lot of these young ladies was not so much their focus on their game. I mean, bar none, some of the best focus I've seen was just how really in tune they were with putting their best foot forward, if you will. And what I mean by that is, many of them, just as you pointed out, are very supportive of one another, even though they're competing week in, week out. And yeah, there might be a little ribbing, a little jostling going on here and there, throughout the year. But the truth is they respect and value one another as individuals, and they are there. I remember a couple of young ladies, the names escape me right now, but that actually talked about times when they were really down this season, just things were not, happening for them. But they would get messages, or they would get, an arm around the shoulders and say, we know you can do it. So there was a lot of support out there in the Symetra Tour for one another. And that's something that really impresses me, because that's not easy. I mean, when you're being competitive, you've got to have your competitive hat on, but at the same time, it just shows the humanity that a lot of these ladies show one another.
Yeah, absolutely. And it all starts, I think, back to the junior golf days where they're playing alongside each other as friends, and then they go to colleges and they're playing, even if they're not on the same team, they're playing at college tournaments where they see each other a lot. And then in college golf, they've got their coach kind of taking them step by step along the way. And then they come over to the Symetra Tour side, or even making it straight to the LPGA, they're on their own. They don't have that coach anymore that's truly hand-holding them. They're having to learn how to travel from site to site, whether it's by car or plane. They're probably traveling together. Those that they make friends out there, they decide, hey, let's make this a little bit cheaper and we'll carpool. Or then when it comes to host housing, some players will bunk up together, whether it's in a host family's home, at a city, or if it's in a hotel room, they'll get a couple beds in a hotel and make it cheaper that way. And then they're practicing and doing practice rounds together. And then they don't have their college coach out there necessarily looking at their swing, but now they're each saying, hey, can you take a video of my swing here? And so they're helping each other out, and they're giving them tips. And I see that all the time, just like you're saying. If a girl is struggling on the putting green, so another one will come over and take a look at it for her, or we'll give her a little tip. And then back to our conversation earlier of just being confident when it comes to the mental side. Once you get that, once you see the ball start rolling in the hole and you get that confidence back, it's a big game changer for these girls.
Yeah, it really is, and as I said, it really impresses me listening to them, and we're looking forward, of course, to having a new group of young ladies come on board next year as they win their tournaments. And I know there's some that maybe didn't make it through, and hopefully they will learn from their experience in the 2019 season and help them move forward in 2020, and not look at it as a loss or a setback, but an opportunity for learning. As I mentioned earlier, Julieta Granada, of course, had been out back in 06. In fact, she was won the most money as a rookie on her LPGA debut in 2006, and it wasn't until 2014 when Lydia Ko actually surpassed that. So she knows she has the game. She had to take a step back and come back to the Symetra in order to regain her card, her status, but she didn't let that get her down. She said, okay, this is an opportunity for me to learn to cope with difficult situations, but also an opportunity for me to regroup. And also she has the ability to learn from her experiences already out on the LPGA Tour as she propels herself this season coming up. So, there's a lot. It's a continual learning experience. I think this is what people miss the boat on in golf. You never learn everything all at once until the day you leave this earth. There's always going to be something new to learn, and I think that's one of the interesting things about the game is it's that challenging, but can be equally rewarding. Dean, I want to thank you very much for joining me. I can't believe this, and I hope you don't mind me. I kept you a little longer than probably you needed to be, but I was enjoying our conversation, and I would love to have you come back in the new year. In fact, maybe we may even coordinate it right around the leading up to the tournament in July. I think it'd be interesting to get some perspectives of the senior LPGA event coming up back at French Lick in July for next season. So
Sure.
Maybe we'll coordinate that way. But I want to thank you very much for joining me this morning and for filling in for Mike. You did a fantastic job, and keep up the great work.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, Ted. I enjoyed it as well.
All right. Thank you very much. Special guest, Dean Schneider, Tournament Director for the Senior LPGA. He's got to get back to work, so we can't keep him, but I want to thank him for joining us this morning. Thanks, Dean. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, and that's it for the show. Again, for those of you tuning in a little bit later, I know you were perhaps expecting to see Mike or hear Mike Nichols, the Chief Business Officer of the Symetra Tour, to come and wrap up the season. Regrettably, he was mid-travel and wasn't able to, but very graciously connected us with Dean last minute here, the tournament director, or the senior LPGA tournament director at French Lick, and he is going to come on the show, I believe, next week or certainly within the next couple of weeks. We'll have to reschedule Mike, of course, but we appreciate him helping us out here last minute. Hope you enjoyed the show. Cindy, as far as I know, is coming back next week unless something else comes up. But we appreciate you joining in and all of your continued support, and hope you will continue to support us as we continue on through this season. We've only got a few more shows. I think there might be one more show this month, and then we'll be taking a break during the week of Thanksgiving. And then we have, I think, a couple of more, maybe 3 more shows in December before we break off for Christmas. And we'll be taking an extended break and then starting up a little bit later in the new year. I'll give you those dates coming soon. But we appreciate all your continued support. God bless everybody. Have a great week, and thank you very much for tuning in to the Women of Golf Show. Thanks for listening this morning to the Women of Golf Show. Tune in live each week by visiting blogtalkradio.com/Women of Golf, or on any of these social media platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, CastBox, TalkStream Live, and of course Spotify. If you can't join us live, check out our on-demand section for previously aired broadcasts. To get updates for future shows and upcoming guests, you can follow us on Facebook at Women of Golf. You can also follow me on Twitter at TedandBuckCEO and Cindy at Cindy Miller Golf. Please remember to join us next week on the Women of Golf Show. See you next time. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.